What's up, my future home seller clients? That's you. I'm Rex with Impact Real Estate Group, and today I want to talk to you about getting a little extra time after you sell. A few free days. Time is all we've got. We've got nothing but time. I'm staying, and I don't care what you say. In the California purchase agreement, the default is that the home seller has to be out of the house at 6 p.m. on the day of close of escrow. Hey, it's closed! Get out! Home sellers aren't always ready to move out on the day of close of escrow because typically we don't want them moving out too early, because if they move out of the house and then it falls out of escrow, which does happen sometimes, buyers change their mind. You know, like, here's the thing. In a real estate transaction, anything that's going on in some couple's life is gonna come up during that transaction and blow up and become a big deal, right? If they're having marital problems, it's gonna show up. If they're having money problems, it's gonna show up. If somebody's not telling somebody, it's gonna show up during that transaction because everything comes up. And when that happens, houses fall out of escrow. I'm usually telling my home seller clients to wait until I'm sure that the loan is gonna fund and the reports and inspections and everything's all signed off, released their loan contingency, and at that point, if they back out and things blow up, you get some of the money. They lose their deposit. I wanna make sure we're at that point before I say, okay, get out. Because if they pack up their house and move and it falls out of escrow, well then, we gotta start all over. We're gonna move all their stuff back in, or maybe the market's changed. Now the house doesn't look as good as it did the first time around. Right? Hopefully the market's gone up and we can just flip it again for more money, right? But it doesn't always work like that. So typically you want to get a few extra days after the close of escrow. Now, the default is on the date of escrow, you got to be out. This is something that's super easy to negotiate right up front. And a lot of real estate agents just miss this item. They just leave it as the default. They don't put anything in there, or the offer comes in and the home seller's agent just leaves it there, doesn't even check that item and counter offer back that the sellers need a few extra days. In the old purchase agreement, a home seller would always get 3 days after close of escrow to move their stuff out. Now the default is that day. So you need to actually write it in. You can usually get 3 days pretty easily as long as your real estate agent is on top of it and make sure they counter offer that item out, or it's gonna cause a major problem later on. Everyone starts screaming at each other and that's not good. So we just want to get it all done right up front. Now, if you need a few extra days beyond 3 days, which, you know, more is always better, right? You're living in the house for free now because the buyer owns it, they're paying the mortgage on it, and you're just kind of hanging out, waiting until your days expire, right? So maybe you can get 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or 10. It's just all negotiable, right? So if you have multiple buyers and they're all fighting each other for the house and you want some extra days, you can ask for it because maybe they'll give it to you. Now, typically the banks don't want you in there very long, right? So the bank who's bringing in all the money for the buyer to purchase your property, they usually want the buyer in that house as quickly as possible. They've usually got an owner-occupied financing, which means they have to owner-occupy the property, which means they have to be occupying the property. And typically, maybe you can get a few days, that's no problem. But if you need like a month, now we're talking about a rent back. That's something where you basically sell your house to this new buyer, that buyer owns it, and you rent the house from the buyer as a tenant, right? So he's the landlord or she's the landlord, or they're the landlord, and you're the tenant who's occupying the property and paying their amount that they're paying on their mortgage, right? So I guarantee you, if you've been living in this house and owning it for a long time and paid the mortgage down considerably, what you were paying every month is gonna be way different than what they're paying, right? Because we're gonna sell your house at the maximum market value. So that's good, except when you're renting it, now you gotta pay that monthly fee that they're paying, which is way more than what you're paying. And most banks don't want you to rent it for more than 30 days anyhow. So those are your two options, basically, is close of escrow plus however many days you can get, or do a rent back for maybe 30 or 60 days on the outside. There's a few other options and they're all included in my Ultimate Home Seller's Guide. This is a book that I wrote. It's brand new. It's got that new book smell. Yeah, it's got a lot of information in here too. It's really good. You can't have one unless you list your house with us, and then I'll give you one if you request it. But it's got all kinds of secrets in here. That's why I don't just give it out to everybody, because the real estate community is large and probably love to have this information. They should already know it because they're real estate professionals. So there's close of escrow plus 3. I'm on page 36 here. There's the rent back, and then we also have the long escrow is another option, right? So you could just, not really that great to do a long escrow, because anytime you're in escrow, there's all kinds of things that could happen during escrow. It gives those buyers more opportunity to change their mind or have something go wrong or have the market change or whatever. And so then you got major problems. But you could do like a 30 or 60, or you can do a 30, but 60 or maybe even a 90-day escrow. I don't recommend it because there's all kinds of things that could go wrong. They could even be looking at other homes while they're in escrow on your house, and that's really bad. You don't want that. Or you could rent your house to somebody else don't even sell it, right? You just rent your house. And then you go buy now. Now, that doesn't help me because I do want to sell your house, but it's another option, right? So instead of actually selling your house, you just rent it out to somebody else, and then you go find another home and buy it. Yeah, you don't have to worry about it, right? So you get all the time you need. The last option is you could just sell your house and then rent for a while, and then wait until the market changes or the right house comes along, and you got all the time in the world to just get the money in the bank because you've sold your house. You got some rental property you're just kind of hanging out in for a while, sort of squatting until you find your actual property, and that gives you time to really relax and shop. And if there's a market change happening, you're not sure which way it's going to go, well, maybe you could take advantage of that. If it's still slipping and sliding, which it does sometimes, right? It can go up or down 20%, 10%, pretty easily, almost overnight sometimes. So if the market's in a changing zone, maybe you want to just sell it as much as you can and get all the money and put it in the bank, and then go find a place and rent for a while, and then we'll help you find your home. And it's going to be your dream home. It's going to be amazing, and you'll have all the money in the bank, and you'll have all the time you need to find your next home. Well, that's it for this video. If you're ready for us to come over and take a look at your house and give you our opinion of value and what you should do and not do to get it ready for sale, give us a call or email us or text us or whatever is the easiest way for you to do it. And we'll see our sign on your lawn. This one's mine. My copy. Mine. Precious. Just a stupid book, really. All right.